Car brands frequently use the term flagship as a means to show off their most radical and most expensive model. This is the term frequently used to show off what the brand is capable of doing. For Lexus, their flagship is the LS and the LC. Those are the top of the Lexus pyramid. And in front of me today is the 7th generation 2019 Lexus ES350. Now that's hardly the last time I'm going to mention LS in this video, as there are a lot of elements that carry over from that luxury limousine over into this mid-size executive sedan. The ES has a lot of relation to the Toyota Camry more specifically, but for this generation, it's based upon the all-new Toyota global architecture. So it does have relation to the Camry and the Avalon, but now it's its own vehicle, heavily influenced by that flagship LS. So I think we should hop in and take this ES for a drive and find out exactly what it is all about. So what do I mean by the ES finally becoming its own vehicle? Well, now more than ever, it feels like it has its own identity. The ES is radically different to the car that came before it. If you were to put the 2019 next to the 2018 model, you would think these cars are part of totally different segments with totally different missions. And that was kind of the point with the new ES. Lexus wanted to make it more modern, make it seem like it fit in with the rest of the other competitors in the mid-size executive sedan segment, and also try and make it a car that you wanted to drive. The new ES is longer overall with lower ride height and a wider track. It features a more powerful 3.5 litre naturally aspirated V6. It produces 302 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque, and it's reasonable enough, as just as fast as you want it to be, but the power is sent straight to the front wheels, and I think that's going to be the largest criticism of the ES, is that there is no option for four-wheel drive capability, where everything else in this class at the very least has it as an option to the consumer. There's also a hybrid returning for the 2019 model year, the ES300H, that has a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder with 2 electric motors. And for the first time ever in an ES, you can now get an F-Sport package. So that brings along the things that really you expect with all the other F-Sport models. So that's a different grille, different seats, different steering wheel. But let's focus on what I have here. This 350 is the top trim ultra luxury model. Now there's a few things that are exclusive to this trim. So the heads-up display, the 17-speaker Mark Levinson sound system, the 360-degree cameras, as well as these 18-inch wheels are unique to this trim level. In the most basic ES, you are greeted with a few nice things to have. You'll have that digital display in front of you, you'll have heated front seats, and Lexus's Safety System 2.0. Now what this gives you is a lane tracing assist, automatic high beams, radar assisted cruise control, and pre-collision warning. And elsewhere in the range, you'll be able to upgrade to this 12.3-inch screen that you see in front of me, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alert, heated and ventilated front seats, sunshade for the rear passengers and for the rear glass. The dominant factor of the interior is this 12.3-inch screen, and rightfully it's so. It is bright and beautiful. The colors are sharp, and this is the first time in a Lexus that we get Apple CarPlay integration. No Android Auto as of yet. Alongside all of these new Toyota and Lexus products, Apple CarPlay is coming first. Hopefully Android Auto comes along in the future, but it is critical to note with this ES, if you go for the most basic trim, that has an 8-inch screen, and that does not have Apple CarPlay compatibility. So if you want that, upgrade to the next level, which is the premium, and you'll get this 12.3-inch screen. The layout of the screen with the analog clock besides is reminiscent of the LS, as a few other things are. How we have the different driving modes up here on the stalks above the instrument cluster. The steering wheel is taken straight and out of the LS, like the door handles and the indicator stalks. The steering wheel is almost exactly the same. I should correct myself, because with this we have these plastic paddle shifters behind the wheel, which will change the 8-speed automatic gearbox if you ever want to change into your manual shifting. I have no complaints with the gearbox at all, but in the LS these paddles were made out of metal and they were so lovely to the touch and had this fantastic movement. These are fine, but after experiencing the LS, I really wish they were here too. The way the climate control buttons are set up here, and the buttons are so tactile, they're approaching really the best in the business. Just below that, you'll see all of the settings for your heated front seats, and this is something that the LS didn't have, that I faulted it for. There were no physical buttons for that, and I'm really glad to see it here, as going through the computer system to try and select one of those settings could be a little bit annoying. Now, you control this screen with the touchpad interface that you have down here. Now, this is miles upon miles better than what it was previously in old Lexus models. You used to have this mouse pad, which really wasn't great, and it's good to see that all of these new ones are coming with this touchpad. It may not be as intuitive like some rotary dial systems like we see with BMW's iDrive, but I like it because it has haptic feedback when you move side to side and you press down to select something. Overall, the cabin is a great spot to sit. You have this large glass roof above me, so I'm able to poof my hair up and not worry too much about that being messed up. As a tall driver, thigh extenders are a godsend, and I'm very happy to see them here. The leather all around is nice. There's plenty of soft touch materials too. You can find some harder spots at the bottom of the door cards, along the center tunnel here, and just right in front of the screen. No serious complaints when it comes to material quality. It is nice to know that there's this padding alongside this center tunnel, so you can rest your leg up the sides and not worry about it getting bruised. There's also this subtle detail in the leather for the center console and the door cards. There's this little waved pattern, and you can just feel it to the touch. It's really hard for my camera to pick it up. So if you want to see it, I highly recommend you go to the dealership to actually see it for yourself. This cup holder closest to me actually has a clever feature where you can split it into two levels, so you can have a deep water bottle or a short one, and it can still be accommodated there just fine. Perhaps the only faults I have with the interior is that I never find the Lexus and Toyota heads-up display units to be bright enough, even on their brighter setting. I want more out of them. And then the way that we have this front cup holder set up beside the USB plugs, find it a bit daft how it couldn't be cut into two, so we could have a separation for the USB plugs and the cup holder. I'd love to have that covered up, but if you do use your iPhone for Apple CarPlay, you have to plug it in there, so that means you'll never be able to close it. For rear passengers, it's okay. I'd probably give it a struggle factor of 3. I would like just a touch more headroom. There's no heated rear seats available anywhere on this model. Folding down the armrest, you can see the ski pass-through that goes through the seats that don't fold. They're fixed in place, but it leads into a nicely sized trunk. Do be cautious of the exposed hinge arms if you ever load in something precious. So as I mentioned at the beginning, Lexus wanted to make the ES a car that you wanted to drive. Now, I've spent very little time in the previous model, but I'll tell you that when it came to any sort of driving environment, it felt kind of sloppy. It was super comfortable, as you'd expect a Lexus sedan to be, but every time that you turned the wheel, you had to be so deliberate with it to make something happen. With this, it has a really nice weighting to it. It reacts when you ask it to, and it still retains that excellent comfort. Another thing that the ES carries over from its six-figure bigger brother is how quiet it is when you drive. Going down the highway in this thing is near luxury class quiet. It's utterly impressive, and I'm on the winter tires right now. Imagine how much more quiet it would be with just a regular summer tire attached to it. And when it comes to the exterior design, again, you can see elements of the LS as well as the remainder of the Lexus lineup. So the spindle grille up front and those thin strafed LED headlights. It's not as beautiful as the LS, but we are talking about a car that's half the price. If you switch the driving modes, you'll see the background colors change for the Eco mode and the Sport mode. Eco mode does kind of exactly what you would expect. It makes the throttle just a bit numb and it wants to shift gears sooner. And then Sport mode, I don't notice the steering getting that much heavier, but it feels more elastic. It wants to return itself to center more readily. It is a stretch to call this thing a sports sedan, but it is miles ahead of the car that came before it. In this past week in Canmore, it has been a very snowy week. The roads are quite slushy and wet, and there's been a couple moments of missing out on that four-wheel drive traction, but no scares. Nothing has made me think, oh God, I wish I was in the equivalent BMW with xDrive or Audi with Quattro. In the midsize executive sedan segment, this ES is making a statement with its superb materials and fit and finish for the interior. The all-around, really refined driving experience is what contributes to a very well-sorted vehicle. I really do think that the biggest issue with this ES is that there is no ability to have any sort of four-wheel drive system added to it. But I do highly recommend you to break down your daily driving use of a vehicle such as this. Do you really need four-wheel drive? Because if not, I think you should really consider owning this Lexus ES for all of the abilities and for everything that it carries over with the Lexus brand. I think we're looking at the flagship of the midsize executive sedan segment. To me, the new ES is the LS of its segment. So that's been everything from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. Like if you liked it, share if you think other people would like it too, and if you want to do me the biggest favor in the world, hit that subscribe button as well. It means a lot to me. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you again.